Hi everyone, it's Mary from Joyful and Mary Quilting, and today I want to talk about something that really matters to me. Quilting can be a really expensive hobby, as many of you know, and if you want top-of-the-line tools and beautiful premium products and all the bells and whistles, that is wonderful. We all do. I love good tools too. But you know what? Here's the important part. You do not need top-of-the-line tools to make beautiful quilts. And I never want someone to walk away from quilting because it's too expensive, and I hear that all the time. So today I'm going to share what I'm calling the Lucky 7. This includes many of the basic and oftentimes the most expensive items you will need to start quilting, but I don't want you to break the bank. So we're not going to be reviewing sewing supplies like pins and marking pencils and all the different pressing tools, etc. in this video. What we are going to look at are cutting mats, rotary cutters, rulers, irons, pressing surfaces, pressing solutions and mister bottles, and of course sewing machines, the Lucky 7. And for each one I'm going to show you a budget item, a mid-range item, and then a premium choice if that's what you'd like to get. And then we're going to go over what really actually matters. So let's get started. Number 1, cutting mats. Let's start with something that every quilter truly needs. You need a good quality, self-healing cutting mat. This is not optional. If you're using a rotary cutter, you need to have a proper cutting surface, both for safety and for accuracy. But what's the deal with self-healing? We hear that all the time. Okay, a self-healing mat is designed specifically for rotary cutting, and here's why that matters. Using a self-healing mat, it prevents your blade, your rotary cutting blade, from getting dull quickly. It also allows the blade to glide smoothly when you're cutting, and it helps keep your cuts straight and controlled. Why? Because it reseals that groove that you've just cut. It reseals and you don't create permanent grooves on your mat. So when you cut on a mat that is not self-healing, and a lot of the cheap or more inexpensive ones are, first of all, your rotary cutting blade dulls very quickly. It's almost like cutting right on your tabletop. The surface of the mat can easily and quickly develop cutting grooves that will cause your ruler or blade to shift. Think of it, if there's a groove that you've cut in previously and then you cut across that groove, what can happen is your rotary cutter can kind of shift or shake, and that can be an issue, especially when you're trying to make a precise cut. Now, a self-healing mat, however, is made from layered material that closes back up after the blade passes through. It protects both your surface and your rotary blade, and ultimately it saves you money on the replacement blades while increasing the longevity of your mat. So this is one tool that is truly essential. You want to invest in a good quality cutting mat. But essential doesn't mean expensive, so I'm going to give you the 3 options. First of all, let's talk about the premium option first. That's the Martelli 24-inch by 38-inch self-healing mat. Now, the price range, it's pricey. It's about $164 for that large size. But the reason I recommend that size, if possible, if you have the money and the space for it, it's because a very large cutting surface is available to you. The Martelli mat is thick, it has a very durable construction, and it's really designed for heavy, frequent use. This is a premium mat with lots of cutting space, and you know, it has long-term durability. I have used mine for, I don't know how many years, 6 or 7 years so far. It looks brand new. So what am I paying for when I pay that price? I'm paying for thickness, I'm paying for the size. The larger sizes, of course, are gonna cost more, but they also have the smaller sizes. It is a wonderful cutting mat. The markings are really clear. It's beautiful. It has a nice contrast to it, but it's not required to a beginning quilter. If you want to buy it, absolutely. I bought it and I love it. But let's talk about 2 other options. Our second option is our mid-range option, and the Olfa mats are the ones that we see all the time. 36 by 24, once again, is what's available, and they run about $57, but I hate to give a price because the price changes all the time. It depends on where you buy it, if there's a sale going on, whatever. I prefer the large 36-inch width by the 24 because, as I said, ideal for cutting with the fabric strips, and you want to have that room. You don't want to have to keep folding your fabric up in order to make a cut. It also has very clear grid lines, and it's really reliable. This is a self-healing mat. Once again, it's a little thinner than the Martelli, so it does have a little less longevity than the Martelli, but I have had mine for years and I love them. Eventually they do need to be replaced. They do get grooves in them after a while, they all do. But if you want a good quality, medium-priced mat, the Olfa is a great choice. Our third choice is our budget-friendly option, which is our Fiskars 36 by 24 inch self-healing mat. Approximate price, about $33. Again, depends on if you get it on sale, where you buy it, but that's kind of an average. It has a large surface area just like the other two. It's also self-healing, but you know what? It's very affordable. It's a little thinner, the Fiskars are, than the other mats, but it protects your surface, your table, or whatever you've put it on. It supports accurate cutting, and it does exactly what a mat needs to do at a much lower price. So as I said, it might not feel as thick as the others, but it works beautifully. And then when you're ready to upgrade, if you decide quilting is for you, you can go ahead and buy the more expensive option if you want, or just keep using this one. I'm also going to give you a smart size option. Now, it depends on what size your table or cutting surface area is. You cannot let your mat hang off the edge. You can't cut it that way. You have to make sure that you purchase a mat that's going to fit on the table that you are using it on. Now, I like this small mat. For a cutting area right next to my sewing machine, I actually use the Martelli. And that way, if I need to cut something, I don't have to get up and go to my big mat. It's a small enough area I can use it. But you can also, for those big cutting jobs, especially if you're just starting out, you can use an 18 by 24 inch mat. It's right in between the small size and the large size that I talked about originally. It will absolutely work, and the price runs a little over half the price of a 36 by 24 inch mat. Now, you may need to reposition your fabric as you're cutting longer strips, but you know what? It's completely manageable. For many beginners, this size, that 18 by 24, is perfectly sufficient, and you know what? It's cheaper. It's a lot easier on the quilting budget. So what actually matters when you're purchasing a mat? Let's just go over that again real quick, because this is an important purchase. You want self-healing, you want clear grid lines, and you want a size that fits your space. You do not need the most expensive mat to accomplish that task, but you do need that self-healing surface for safety, for blade longevity, and for accurate cutting. Number 2, rotary cutters. Before we get into the specifics of these rotary cutters, I have 4 here to show you. You want to make sure you get a rotary cutter that is good quality and one that works for you. If you have any hand or wrist issues, you'll want to make sure that you have something that's ergonomically effective when it's being used. If you don't have any of those issues, you can really buy a relatively inexpensive rotary cutter for about $15 to $20, and it will work for you. You want a 45 millimeter. They come smaller, 28, larger, 60. You don't need those yet. The 45 is what's most important. Now let's talk about the specifics of these that I have here on my mat. The first one here is my Olfa cutter. It's about $15 to $20. You can get it on sale. It comes in a variety of colors. It's really lightweight. It's very easy to change the blade. It's simple, it's reliable, and it does have locking features so that when you close it, the blade is not exposed. That's important for any rotary cutter. It cuts cotton just as accurately as high-priced cutters if the blade is sharp. So you want to make sure that you have a sharp blade when you are cutting, and we'll talk about that in another video. So that's our most inexpensive. Our second kind of middle-of-the-road pricing is the Famore, or Missouri Star Quilt Company also markets this particular brand under their own name. And it has, as you can see, a little fancier handle. This one is very basic. This one is just a little comfort grip, they call it, and it also opens easily just using a flip of the switch. The blade removal, you unscrew this and put in your new blade, so it's easy to do as well. It is a little heavier than this, so you've got a little bit more push when it comes to using this particular cutter. Just a little easier on your hand. The third one that I have here is my Quilters Select. Now, this one is the pricey model, $55 to $65 usually. It is heavy. It is ambidextrous. You can use it right or left-handed. It's very easy to use. It feels very balanced, but if somebody has an issue with, they can't push down easily, maybe you have a problem with your wrist or your hand, this does the pushing for you by the weight that is distributed throughout the cutter. Okay, so it's easy to use. You push the button in, you cut, and then when you want the blade to retract, you just tap it and the blade retracts. It's really a great product. Again, if you don't have any of those issues, this particular one will work just fine. The inexpensive Olfa, the budget friendly. Now, again, Martelli makes this type of cutter, and it actually is totally different. It's a different feel, it's a different hold, but it is made specifically for people that have hand and wrist issues, and there are so many positive reviews on this cutter. So if you do have any of those problems, you may want to check this out. So here's the truth. A $15 cutter with a sharp blade cuts just as accurately as a $60 cutter. The difference is comfort and features, not precision. So if you replace your blade regularly, that matters more than the brand. Number 3, rulers. This is my favorite. This is the most important part, I believe, to quilting to get those accurate, smooth cuts. So the basic ruler sizes that we need are, I think, right here. 3 rulers. Let me talk about what they are so you can see them and you can make that decision. First of all, the 2.5 inch by 12.5 inch. This works for so many things. I'm not going to go into it here, but it's an important size that I think is very valuable when it comes to quilting. The second is a 12.5 inch square ruler. This will allow you to cut the smaller squares and up to about a 12.5. Sometimes we cut bigger in quilting, 14.5, 16, but you don't need a ruler specifically for that yet. This will work for any size block or piece basically that you're working on. The most important, I think, when it comes to cutting our strips and our pieces is having a good 6.5 or 6 inch by 24 or 24.5 inch ruler. And that's this one. It goes up to the 24 or 24.5, and it's 6 or 6.5 inch wide. This is really important to get those long cuts where we don't want to get off course. So I love this ruler. Now, one other ruler I'm going to talk about is the 6.5 by 6.5 inch ruler. You don't need this because you can use your large 12.5 inch ruler for that. But if you've got a little extra money, we do a lot of small pieces, and this 6.5 by 6.5 is convenient, but not absolutely necessary. So, what brand do we buy? There are so many brands of rulers out there, and I couldn't possibly show you all of them, and I'm sure you have your favorites if you're an experienced quilter. But as a new quilter, I'm going to show you the ones that are most popular that we seem to see a lot of. We have the Omni Grid, we have the Creative Grids, and then we have the Quilters Select. This is kind of the budget item, middle of the road, and the more premium item. So what are the differences? First of all, I don't have a 2.5 inch wide by 12.5 inch of the Omni Grid, so I'm going to show you on this one. But the one issue that we have with the Omni Grid is it does not have a built-in grip. Creative Grids does. It has little dots on the back and all over that help to keep the ruler stable when you're making your cuts. Quilters Select is backed with a non-skid surface that is amazing, and your fabric doesn't go anywhere. So which ones do I like and why? If you have the money to purchase a more expensive ruler, by all means do it. But if you'd rather just start out with an inexpensive one until you figure out whether or not you want to keep doing this, what you can do is you can either add some tape. This is just medical tape that you buy at the pharmacy, and you just put it on the back of your ruler, and it will keep the ruler from skipping or slipping. You can also use these little tiny grippies. They come in a package, usually you can buy at your local quilt shop, and stick those to the back, and that helps. I'm not always as crazy about these because you can see they're a little high, and sometimes unless you put a lot on your ruler can tip a little bit, but they work. My favorite is using Grippy. This is just a spray by Otif. You spray the back of your ruler, let it dry for a minute or two, and it turns the back of my Omni Grid ruler into a no skid surface, and it really works. I love the way that it grips to my fabric when I'm making that cut. So I have done that. I have a large 6.5 by 24.5 inch Omni Grid ruler that also slips. I sprayed it with Grippy, and it does not slip. So again, it's a great option if you don't want to break the bank when you're buying your rulers. There are definitely some pretty distinct price differences between these three, so you want to take that into consideration. So here's the takeaway. If you're starting out An omni-grid ruler with a simple grip solution such as Grippy or the tape works extremely well. The premium rulers feel nicer, but you can absolutely cut accurately without them. Again, skill matters more than brand. Before we move on, I want to take just a minute to share some great deals from our sponsor. So if you've been here for a while, you already know how much I love Bob and Brad products. And yes, I'm talking about them again because they are truly that good and just perfect for quilters. They contacted me originally and they sent me a few products and then a few more that we really felt would be beneficial to quilters. So after trying each one of these out, I am sold. Since then, I've actually bought more of their great products for myself and for my family. And as always, I never recommend anything I don't truly love or personally use in my quilting life. I'm going to show you a few of my favorites that I really believe are especially beneficial for quilters. First of all, the hand massager. Now, this one's pure heaven after rotary cutting or foundation piecing. It gently compresses and massages your hand and fingers. And you know what? It feels amazing when your hands are tired or when they're, really tight after a full sewing day. The next one is the neck massager, and I also did a video on that. If you've ever found yourself when you're sewing, you're hunching over on your machine or your cutting table, or even at your computer, this one really helps loosen up that neck tension that builds up when you don't even realize it. The next one, I have two. It's the back massager, lower back. This one and this one. Now, this one is great to take on a retreat. It's rechargeable, it's very portable, and the newer model is fantastic, this one, because it plugs in and it has a remote control. Here's the remote control. So this one, it's good to put behind you, but when you need to adjust it, you have to take it out and readjust. A little more pressure, a little more heat, you do have to do that. Where this one, when you plug it in, you can do all that change right here from the remote. So you can just sit there, enjoy it, and then make the changes that you need. The last thing I want to tell you about quickly is the heating pads. And there's one here and there's one here. These aren't just heating pads. They use a combination of soothing heat, vibration, and infrared or near infrared light to reach deeper layers of muscle and tissue. They warm up fast. They are both rechargeable, and they're designed to support circulation, muscle relaxation, and relief from repetitive strain, which quilters all deal with. They're incredibly versatile and they're so easy to use. There's no cord. You can strap this along your waist. It even has an extension if you need it a little bit larger. This one is more for localized and you just strap it on. Most of these units are rechargeable, so you can take them around the house or you can bring them to a quilting retreat. The updated one with the remote, I love it, especially for home use. If you want to check out any of these for yourself, I have promo codes for each one that's linked in the YouTube description below, so you can save a little money on your purchase. I only recommend products I believe in, and these have truly been worth the investment for my comfort and my well-being. And remember, taking care of your body means you get to keep quilting longer, and that makes me very joyful and very merry. Number 4, irons. You have to have an iron. We press in quilting all the time. I'm going to show you 3 options. This inexpensive Black & Decker option as our budget friendly, this Rowenta iron as our middle of the road option, and then this Oliso iron as our premium option. So first of all, we have to talk about heat. For quilting cotton, you want the cotton setting to be around 350 to 400 degrees. How do you tell? You press your seams and you see if it works. So here are the options I'm going to show you. The first one is this budget-friendly iron called the Black & Decker 1200 watt iron. I bought it for $13. We have used these with Project Linus for our Make a Blanket days for years. The same irons. They work well, they hold the heat, they press a nice seam. If the iron reaches cotton temperature and holds the heat, it works. Now, it'll say the wattage on there, and as I said, this one was 1200 watts, but that affects the heat recovery speed, not the maximum temperature. So that's a thing that you want to consider too, depending on how often you're using the iron. You want to make sure that it recovers and it stays hot. Now, That was the $12 option. The mid-range option is our Rowenta, about $40. You can buy it any place. Sometimes they're on sale for $30. This is my favorite. This is the one that I use all the time. It's more powerful than the $12 iron. It has a faster heat recovery, and that's what, as I said, we're interested in. The third option is the Oliso, and this is the TG1600. It's the Pro Plus. You can see every time I touch it, when I'm ironing, it drops down onto the ironing board, but then when I let go, it picks it up so that I don't have to stand it up every single time. Okay, the Oliso isn't any hotter. It is more convenient because you don't have to stand it up. It's about $200. So if your $13 iron presses seams flat and stays hot, you're good. Premium is about ease, not necessity. So keep that in mind when you are purchasing your iron, or just get a middle of the road iron and you'll do just fine. One additional feature that I want to talk about is the ability to use steam in your iron. To be honest, I never put water in my iron. I don't put it in my inexpensive iron, my medium, or my expensive iron. For some reason, it always seems like eventually it starts to spit rust for me. I know people have given me all sorts of options, but I've decided I just don't even want to risk it. So if there is an opportunity to use steam, and I rarely use steam, I usually use my pressing solutions, but if I need to use steam, I have a mister bottle that I fill with water and I spray that and use the steam that way rather than through the iron. That's just me. That's my personal opinion, but I would prefer to use water in a bottle rather than fill my iron up with water, then have to make sure it's completely emptied out and worry about whether or not it's going to spit rust eventually. Number 5, pressing surface. Pressing surface is a fancy way of saying ironing board. You need an ironing board, or you need something that you put your iron on and your fabric or your blocks so that you can press and you don't ruin your cutting mat, you don't ruin your table, whatever. You need some protection and you need something that works well. Now, small pressing surfaces like this are really all about convenience. I like to have a small pressing surface next to my sewing machine so that I can actually do some pressing. But you know what? There are times when I've just taken my ironing board and I've put it close to my sewing machine and I've used that as my pressing surface. I have also used other things. You can fold a towel and you can put it down on a wood base. Make sure it's something that you don't worry about. You don't want to ruin any kind of a tabletop, but you can use a towel on a piece of wood and it works really well. In fact, you can even just use the wood without the towel. That also works well to get those flat seams. But we like a nice pressing surface because with our irons, it just feels more comfortable to have that little bit of cushion underneath the iron as we're pressing and our block or fabric. So let's talk about the options that we have. So the ironing board, if you have an ironing board, I mean, they can run anywhere from very expensive, the more sturdy ones, to a more portable, small ironing board. You know, $30, $40, $50, $100, it just kind of depends, but a lot of people use an ironing board all the time, so having one is more of a necessity and using it for quilting is just an option. Let's go to our second choice, which would be this June Taylor pressing surface. Now, as you can see, this one actually has a cutting mat on the other side, but I use these all the time, especially if I'm traveling. They have small ones, they have large ones. They're called the June Taylor Cut and Press. They run about $30 to $40 depending on the size that you get, but they really do work well. They're convenient, they don't slip around. You can press on one side, and if you're really limited in space, you can flip it over and you can cut on the other side. So I really like this, and like I say, I have several sizes. Now, the other option would be a wool pressing mat. This is more of our premium option because they are more expensive. Now, a wool pressing mat is one of those luxuries. It retains heat. It presses beautifully. It actually presses from both sides because the heat goes down into the wool and then back up when we're pressing our block. It reflects that heat into the fabric, and that's why it works well. But wool does not create accuracy. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is you need a good quality wool. Don't just buy one of the cheap, inexpensive ones. Many times those are not good merino wool, and what happens is they sweat. When you're pressing, you'll have water on your counter underneath it simply because it's poor quality, and sometimes they stink. They have an odor that comes off of them. So you want to make sure that you have a really good quality mat, and those do not come cheap. So again, as I said, wool doesn't create accuracy. Accuracy comes from proper seam allowance, pressing without distortion, and we'll learn how to press eventually. And for those large jobs, you can use your ironing board. There are also wool pressing mats that you can buy that fit the ironing board, but you don't need a dedicated pressing station. Quilters have used ironing boards for generations. The small areas are good if you don't want to get up all the time and go to your ironing board, but it's not essential. If you have an ironing board, use it. Number 6, pressing solutions and mister bottles. You do not need expensive spray when you are pressing your blocks, but you do need something. So I've got 3 options here, as always. First of all, the budget option. And I'll be honest, I have not made this, but I know a lot of people have and they swear by it. It's the homemade vodka solution. You take 1 part vodka, just a cheap vodka from the liquor store, and 3 parts distilled water. It's really inexpensive when you mix it together, put it in your mister bottle. It's about $4 to $6 for a whole gallon when you're making it up. So it's really cheap, and from what I understand, it works really well. I have heard a couple of negatives on it. One of them is that some people feel like it needs to be kept in the refrigerator. Some people feel like it can go bad after a while. I don't know the answer to that, but that is a possibility. So if you don't use it often and go through the bottle, you might want to consider making less. Our medium price is either our Magic Premium Quilting and Crafting Spray. I don't have any of that here, but I have used it. Or the Mary Ellen's Best Press. I buy it by the gallon because it's way cheaper to do it that way. It's about $45 for a gallon of the Mary Ellen's Best Press. It's reliable, it's widely used, and it's not a starch. That's the thing that's really important to know. This is a pressing solution, but it is not a starch. It doesn't flake, and it really does give a good stiff feel to your fabric when you're piecing. It's really important. We won't get into all that, but I do use this all the time, and I love it. Now, the third option, which would probably be the more expensive option if you just used it as is the Terrio Magic. I buy it in the gallon, but I never use it full strength. I use it by combining it with water, 1 part Terrio Magic to 1 part water, and then I put it in my mister bottle. So that's what's in here. And it works just as well as my Mary Ellen's Best Press or the Magic Premium Quilting and Crafting Spray. I love the Terrio Magic. Now, keep in mind, when you purchase it as a gallon, it's about $68, which seems to be a lot. But I dilute it half and half with water. So it's $35, which is even less expensive than the Mary Ellen's Best Press. Now, I want to share with you this, just a little money saving tip. First of all, I always buy by the gallon, but if you have a Menards in your area, Menards sells the Mary Ellen's Best Press. Sometimes it's even on sale, and it's really cheap. So again, there are occasions when we can buy products like this in the spray bottle, and we can get a really good deal if we buy it from places that aren't necessarily quilting spots. So the Mary Ellen's Best Press, in the bottle here, I bought this, I think it was for this whole bottle, $4.47, which was a really good deal. And again, the Terrio Magic is my go-to. It's what I use all the time. So keep in mind, the smaller bottles are convenient, but the gallons save money. So if you're on a budget, or even if you're not, and you want to save a buck, this is a great way to go. Here's another thing. I always use a mister bottle. I love the mister bottles rather than the squirt bottle. You hold it and it sprays a nice even mist over my fabric. I don't get too much, but I get enough. And sometimes when I'm using a spray where I have to squeeze it, I'll get a real damp feeling to my fabric when I don't want that. If you want that, that's fine, but I really love the mister bottle. But here's the money-saving tip for this. If you take a look at your mister bottles, I bought these 2 bottles on Amazon for $9.99. Both of them, $9.99 for 2. I just looked up mister bottle, and this is what I came up with. They work great. I've used them forever. I also have this really cute mister bottle that I bought at a quilt shop. For one, it was $23. So that's a huge price difference to get that little lady on here that's pressing her fabric or using this for whatever. It's got all the fabric on there. You know what? $9.99 for 2 is really the way to go. $23 if you want a really cute bottle and you want to identify it as yours. That's good too. It is cute and I do love it. But it is not a money-saving option when it comes to purchasing a mister bottle. Number 7, this is our lucky 7, our sewing machine. If you already have a sewing machine, you can skip this part. As long as it sews a straight stitch, you're good to go. If you want to purchase a machine, I'm going to give you 3 options. If you're into the premium option, where you want all the bells and whistles, I have a Janome Memory Craft 9450 QCP. I love it. It has a large throat, needle down, thread cutter, auto foot lift, wonderful features. This is not required. Now I also have a mid-range Janome that's called the Janome 3160 QDC. It's smaller, it's reliable, runs smoothly, it's great for piecing, and it's an excellent choice for beginners who want a new machine. So you would get that from your Janome dealer. But the best value is a good used sewing machine serviced by a dealer. Now you can find them at garage sales or whatever. Those can be okay, but you have to be careful because you don't know if they're in good working order. And until you get going, nothing is more frustrating than to have a sewing machine that just isn't working right. So if you buy a used machine from a dealer, you also have them available to help you if you need help, or basically to give you servicing whenever it's needed. So that would be my recommendation. You can find a good quality machine that somebody may have traded because they just moved up to a more premium brand. You'll get a good quality machine based on the needs that you have when you talk to your dealer and get that information from them so you know how to make an informed purchase. Now keep in mind, I don't get anything from Janome. I just have had Janome sewing machines, Elna, Bernina, and I love my Janomes that I have had recently. So if you buy one, whatever dealer is near you, I'm sure they have a recommendation for the product that they sell. You just want a good straight stitch that you can use that doesn't break the bank. I will caution you not to buy from a big box store. They may even have a name that sounds familiar to you when it comes to the brand of the machine, but they're not always good quality, and there is no service opportunity there once you buy from them. So be really careful. For better performance and for the same price oftentimes as a cheap big box store machine, you can get a serviced used machine that is often a smarter investment than a brand new entry-level machine with no support. So keep that in mind. You don't need luxury to start quilting. So I want to end with this. Yes, quilting can look expensive. People have beautiful sewing studios. They use premium tools. They have high-end sewing machines. And you know what? Those are wonderful, and we love to have those things. But if they bring you joy and they fit in your budget, get the tools that work for you. Quilting does not require luxury to begin. You need a way to cut, you need a way to sew, you need a way to press, and you need a willingness to learn. That's it. If we allow quilting to look financially out of reach, we risk turning people away who would absolutely fall in love with it. And I never want someone to say to me, you know what, I would quilt, but I can't afford it, which they have said. You can start simple. You can upgrade later if you want. You can grow into the hobby, and your quilts can be just as beautiful, because beautiful quilts are made with care, not with price tags. So that's the Lucky 7. And before we wrap up, I do want to mention this. If you're a brand new quilter or you're a self-taught quilter and you feel like you have gaps, we've created a beginner quilting course called From Novice to Confident Beginner. It's designed to take you step by step through the foundations so you're not guessing, you're not second guessing, and you're not trying to piece together random tips from all over the internet. If you'd like to learn clear instructions in a structured way, the link is in the description. And no matter what tools you're using, budget, mid-range, or top of the line, I'm cheering you on. You absolutely can do this. If this video helped you, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future quilting tips or tutorials and beginner-friendly help. I'm always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry. Thanks so much for joining me.